So we learned in the first classes that the only way we can achieve good is when we emulate the Creator, because we were created with the image of God within us. And that means, if you want rule number 3, if you remember, rule number 3 says that the only way we can have a lasting fulfillment and achievement is when we are having the image of the Creator while achieving that fulfillment, which means we need to go through a journey in which we achieve completion and fulfillment, and that is the journey of our life. So, but the Kabbalist is asking the question like this. Let's go for it again. The question is like this. If we understand from the point of view of the Creator, the world was already created with its full completion. You read Genesis chapter 1, and it says, and God said, let there be light, and God saw that the light is good. And then there was a night, there was a day, one day. In that moment when it says one day, we understand that if there's a one, there's no other. There's a night, and there's a day, there's a light, and there's darkness, which means there's the Creator and the creation, and they are one. We were created, the light filled us up, and everything was perfect. However, it was not really perfect because we wanted to be a creator. Not the creator, but to feel as creators. We could not have that achieved when we are passively fulfilled with God's light. So we created a tzimtzum in order to be able to create a space of darkness within we can create the existence of the light every time we choose to. So that's how we came to this world that we know. Now, here comes the great study over here. If God allowed us to create this, what sometimes looks like a great horror show, which is history of humanity on planet Earth, how did He allow us to go through something so painful? And the answer is, this is what we wanted. We wanted to have it so tough, so painful, so when we overcome that, we create completion and perfection. It's all ours. Okay? Now the sages are asking this question. The way we know humanity, we are very, very, very good in creating havoc and chaos and pain and misunderstanding. We're very good at it. What's a guarantee, or is there a guarantee, that misery won't last forever? Because if humanity will suffer forever, this is basically, what's the word? It's kind of cheating the Creator. We told the Creator, give us some time, we'll receive all your light, but we get it on our own, and then we go back to the completion. And now the sages were asking, in order for that to happen, God had to put a limit. As we said, otherwise, we can go for, suffering forever, never coming back home. Okay? And if there's a limitation, how long would that take till we reach completion? And the answer is, our world exists the way we know it for 7,000 years. It's divided to 6,000 years of tikkun, that humanity is incarnating again, and again, reincarnating till every soul completes itself. as an individual and as a society. 6,000 years. On the seventh millennium, it will be 1 millennium of Shabbat, the Sabbath, and then we'll enjoy the fruit of our labor. Okay, that's basically the framework. This is being written in the Talmud in Tractate Sanhedrin, page 97, and it's a very known idea. Now, we'll come back to it. So where do we get this idea? One of the most amazing source of ethics and values, it's called the Ethics of the Fathers, Mishnah, or in Hebrew, Mishnah Avot, chapter 3. In verse 15, Rabbi Akiva is quoted, and he says, this is very famous saying that, you know, whoever is a Hebrew speaker as a common language must know that by heart. Hakol tzafui v'areshut netuna. Translation, all is foreseen, which means everything is predetermined, and freedom of choice is granted. Still, we humans have the freedom of choice. The world is judged with goodness because everything will turn out to become good. Doesn't matter how terrible things look like, they are all in the making of the good. But in accordance with the amount of man's positive deeds, which means it doesn't happen automatically, it's according to your own actions, which means the condition that the creation has been created the way we know it was that we are here because we want to achieve godliness and the divine, but we want to get there through our own deeds and actions. Okay? That's why it says it's all getting good, but according to our actions. Now, so the question is, what's the guarantee that we're not going to stay here on earth inflicting misery on ourselves and others endlessly? And the answer is in the next verse. Rabbi Akiva continues. Also very famous words that even like people are really secular. This is part of these words are like big part of the Ethics of the Fathers is embedded in the Hebrew language, the spoken Hebrew language. And he says like this, he would also say, everything is placed in guarantee, and the net is spread all over all the living. Which means God, in order to make sure, to guarantee that humanity is going to make it happen and is not going to be cheated. What do I mean cheated? If he created us to be happy and we're not happy, we're cheating God. Now this is very important, because according to that, if we understand real monotheism, the moment somebody is spreading a monotheistic belief that says that very small amount of humans are going to reach completion and find their place in the heavenly presence of God. Most humans, because of the bad deeds, are going to be rot in hell forever and suffer terrible misery and pain. That's cheating God. He created humanity, each human being, doesn't matter what background they have, nationality, whatever, it's like everybody has to reach completion because God created them for that purpose. The fact that somebody is suffering forever shows a blemish on the Creator, not on the creature. And therefore this is impossible in Judaism, even to fathom that one soul would not reach the heavens, will not reach the final celebration of unity and divinity to all human souls. It's impossible. How would that happen? There's a guarantee. And what is the guarantee? And the net is spread all over the living. How does that net looks like? What does it mean, a net? And this is a kind of a visual that explains the net. Life is like, if you can visual, the store is open, the storekeeper extends credit, the account book flies open, the hand writes, and all who wish to borrow may come and borrow. The collection officers make their rounds every day and extract payment from people with his knowledge and without his knowledge, which means you're going to pay for whatever you took, knowingly or unknowingly, by surprise or by conscious. The case is well founded, the judgment is a judgment of truth, and ultimately, all is prepared for the feast. That's a visual. Okay, today you can even translate this visual to a modern, super modern supermarket. Today you have already supermarkets like this, that the person is coming into the supermarket. There are video cameras all over the place. Every product you put in your cart is simply registered. You don't see that, but it's being registered. You leave the supermarket, everything that you took in your cart is being deducted from your credit card. You know, with a credit card, once a month, you have to pay it from your own account. So that's what it says. Some people knowingly, they prepare the amount in their account because they know they took stuff from the supermarket. However, there are people who think that this world is full of free gifts and whatever is free you can collect. So they collect all kind of stuff. Stealing, cheating, just taking just because they saw it and they wanted, they just took it. Everything is registered. You pay for everything you go through. You repair everything you break. Not this lifetime, another lifetime. And there's a collection officers. They make their rounds every day, which means that's when it says there's a net spread all over the living. There's a net of rules of cause and effect. As it says in the book of Job, Kifo al adam yishalem lo. The person's action will make him pay, which means it's a world of automated system. Finally, you're going to pay for whatever you want to achieve, and the final sentence is their case is well founded, the judgment is judgment of truth, and ultimately, no, bad people and good people, everybody pays, everybody gets well paid. And ultimately, the bottom lines, all is prepared for the feast. At the end of the journey of humanity, there's going to be a great feast. That's how the legend is saying. A feasting on the wild ox, and there's like kind of visuals for that, but it's a feast that all of humanity is invited. No one will be missing. Why? You don't leave anyone behind. If somebody was created, he was created to complete the journey. No matter what's the journey, finding that every journey is leading towards one thing, total completion for everybody. So the question, as we said, how long would that take? And that's what we're discussing today. So, as we said, Tractate Sanhedrin in the Talmud, page 97, it says, the world as we know it will exist for 6,000 years. 2,000 of Tohu, these 6,000 years are divided into few sections. The first 2,000 years are called the 2,000 years of Tohu. Tohu means in Hebrew, if you know, when it says in Genesis, chaos, the Hebrew is Tohu Vavohu. Tohu comes from the Hebrew word tehiyah, wondering. It's like humanity is still wondering what's this story is about. What's the right thing to do? How this thing that is called life is being handled. After the first 2,000 years that humanity is wondering and is still not really aware of what's going on over here, then comes 2,000 of Torah, 2 millennia of Torah. And then after these 2 millennia of Torah, we have the 2,000s of the Messianic age. So let's show it on the history of humanity. Okay, first, we're talking about the 6,000 years of Tikkun. Okay? By the way, let's go back. So, so it's like you're just in the stadium, there's a game. Soccer, football, baseball, whatever. If you notice, in every game like this, you have a clock. And on the clock, the clock counts the time because every game has a limit. Okay? When the clock shows that it came to the limit, the game is over. The difference is there's always a winner. If there's a winner, there's a loser. In our game, everybody becomes a winner. Okay, now, where is the clock in our game? The clock is simply in the Hebrew calendar. The Hebrew calendar gives you exactly the time frame. Right now, 2024, the clock says 5784. How long should it go to? 6,000. We are now in 5784, and that means how many years we have left? We have 216 years left for the end of the journey. Within 216 years, which is almost nothing, we are supposed to complete the whole thing. Okay? This is what it is talking about. So, but just a second, don't we know from all kind of archaeological and other diggings, pre-historical diggings and so on, that the world exists for billions? You have to remember something. When we speak about that the world exists for billions of years, this is through an assumption that was laid in the 19th century, that we can count the time as long as we can count backwards, based on the way time is functioning right now. People are missing the idea that around 100 years ago, when the quantum physics was discovered, one of the discoveries, remember when it says if a tree fell in the forest and there was nobody there, did it make a sound? So the common sense will say, of course it made a sound. And quantum physics says if there's no witness, it didn't make a sound. The same question is being asked: if time passed by and there was no one who understands or have an awareness of time, did time pass by? According to quantum physics, time didn't pass by. There was no time. Which means what Jewish philosophy is about, we can count only how long we count. What happened before could be billions of years, but since we have no witnesses, remember quantum physics, you need a witness, a conscious mind and perception. There's no, according to If you think there's no human brain with a consciousness of time of today before 57, 84 years. We simply count not how long ago the universe was created. We count, according to Judaism, how long we count. It's the only thing we can basically stand for. You can't really be assured that before human beings had the awareness of history. And by the way, 6,000 years before 6,000 years, you have no writings, you have no documentation of anything in human history. You're not so sure that humans had the ability to have that awareness, because if they did not record time, they probably did not have the ability to record time. This is a perception of Judaism. So I leave it here. It's a really deep philosophical question. So we measure how long the tikkun process is taking. Before that, if people have no awareness of time, and they don't even have awareness of the tikkun, so do they really exist the way we perceive our existence? No, they did not. So what was reality during the dinosaurs, before the dinosaurs? Now, even like very lately, because of the really powerful telescopes sent to outer space, they were able to look so far away, which means to the beginning of the creation, after the Big Bang. And just lately, they came out with startling realizations. The time did not work in the same pace we know it in a really far away past, which means that's exactly what the Torah is saying. We cannot. It's very pretentious to declare how long was something ago when there was no one to measure it, because there's a connection between human awareness and the pace of time. We can only measure how long we measure the way we measure right now. How long human consciousness exists the way we know it now. 57, 84. That's how long the journey is taking till now. So let's go into details. How does that effect manifest itself in history? So the first 2 millennia, the years of Tohu, which means humanity is in chaos, not understanding really what's really the game about, what's really the story about. So they try to invent themselves, and many civilizations are rising and falling. And then in 1948, in the calendar that we call today, which means that today we are in 5784, in 1948, Abram the Patriarch is born. According to Jewish mythology, Abram got the consciousness of God and the understanding of the great picture when he was around 50. So that means it was around the year 2000 that the consciousness of the Torah is starting to be created. What does it mean, the Torah? The idea that there's one God, which means we are here as these creatures. The whole creation was good, and we are in the journey of recreating that good on our own. This is starting with Abram around the year 2000. The next 2000 that the Talmud says is 2000 of Torah. So from 2000 to 4000, this is the 2 millennia of Torah. Okay? During these 2000 years, it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the slavery in Egypt, Mount Sinai revelation. Then Joshua brings the Israelites to Israel, and it goes on till the year 240 CE. That is the year 4000, What happened around 240 CE? The Mishnah and the Zohar are mostly complete, which means what is we call the main body of Jewish studies, starting from Abraham till Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, around 240, is exactly 2,000 years. That's how it takes. Now, the study of the Torah, the awareness of the Torah, the theory of reality is, the foundation is complete. Now of the year 4000, which is 240 in the 240 CE, now we're starting another millennium. This is the 5th millennium, which the years 240 till 1240 CE, Common Era. That time is called by the sages the Dark Millennium. Okay, I'm talking about the sages of the ancient sages before, the ancient sages from the end of the 4th millennium. The ones who created the Mishnah and the Zohar, they call it the Dark Millennium. Elef HaChoshech. We call it today, after it finished, as the Dark Ages. Okay, so this comes to its end in the year 1240. And around the year 1270, the Zohar is revealed, because when the Zohar was written, it was not meant to be revealed and published as it was written. It took, by the way, few centuries to write the Zohar. Because the Zohar was a secret, there was no need to canonize it, like the Mishnah or like the 24 books of the Jewish Bible. So every generation added some more teachings on it. So we have the Tanaim from the Mishnah that wrote the main body of the Zohar, but you have also Amoraim, the people that created the Talmud. They also added stuff to the Zohar, but the Zohar was really in a secret till it was published in 1270. Okay, and here we're starting another millennium, which is called the 6th millennium, or the Messianic Age, and this is the era between 1240 CE and 2240. As we said, we are 216 years away from that. We're just at the last lap in the great race of humanity. Then from 6,000 to 7,000, which is 2240 till 3240, this is called the millennium of Shabbat, which it's going to be a totally different dimension, as we're going to see later on. Okay, so now we can go into more details into the 6th millennium, that's what we're interested in. Okay, so the 6th millennium, because if you notice that when we talk about 6 millennia and then 1 millennium of Shabbat, it reminds us the 6 days of the creation. 6 days of creation and then 1 day of Shabbat. 6 and 1, okay? Which means every millennium is 1 day, equivalent to 1 day. So the Jewish studies divide that millennium into the same pace of a day. A day is divided into 4 sections in the Hebrew calendar. Okay, the day starts on sunset, which means when we are talking about the beginning of the 6th millennium, the year 1240 CE, okay, the year 5000 in the Hebrew calendar, that is 6 p.m. sunset of Thursday evening. Okay, let's say somebody gets married in a Jewish wedding on Thursday evening. There's a marriage certificate that has to be fulfilled in the wedding. It's called ketubah. On the ketubah, there's a place and date and the details of the couple. On the date, if you're being married, let's say Thursday after sunset, then the date will be of tomorrow. So because it says in Genesis, And there was a night, there was a day, which means sunrise, sunset. And the day is starting with the sunset. So Shabbat starts on sunset, holidays start on sunset, the Hebrew calendar day starts on sunset. So, which means that when we're starting the sixth millennium, we're starting on the year 1240, and that's equivalent to 6 p.m. sunset on Thursday, going into Friday, sixth day. So, as we said, on 1270, the Zohar is revealed, and then we having the Hebrew calendar day is divided into 4 equal, and not exactly equal, depends on the season, sections. So we have the first section is sunset till midnight. That's called the evening. Then midnight till dawn is the night. Okay? The spiritual connection in the evening is the prayer of Arvit. After midnight is called the prayer of Tikkun Chatzot. And then from dawn, we are starting the morning prayer, Shacharit. Noontime, we're starting the time for Mincha, the afternoon prayer. So we have 4 sections in every day. Now, if we talk about 4 sections, if it's an equinox, which means a day that is equal day and night, so we take the millennium and divide it into 4 quarters. What do you get? 250 years. So if 6 p.m. sunset was at the year 5000, then the next change will be at midnight. Midnight will be the year 1490. Okay? At midnight is the best time to start studying the Zohar. And basically, all great Kabbalists say that from 1490, it's time to study the Zohar in public, young and old. This is the time. We know that it was also a very important date in the history of humanity because 1492 was Columbus discovering America. 2 years late, but this is considered as the end of the Dark Ages officially. Okay? Which means you will see one of the things, remember what we said about Isaiah saying in the chapter 11, that the age of the Messianic age is connected to the spread of the knowledge of the Creator, like water cover the sea. So we will see that there's a very strong connection between the ability to spread wisdom and the ability to learn wisdom, and with this space that we're talking about. Why discovery of America is considered to be the end of the Dark Ages? Because this was an age that the discovery of America was part of it, of breaking all patterns of do not ask, do not research, do not question. Everything that's supposed to be known is already known, so there's no need for any research. And don't doubt the ideas of the ancients. Okay? 1492 started like a surge in research and the boundaries, like, people thought that the world is flat, and then finding America and then India is all about one thing. The world is round. Okay, so it's starting from that time and in all directions. Then we have the Reformism. We have a lot of stuff at the beginning of the scientific revolution. It's all starting in the year 1490, according to that idea, which is midnight. What's the next stage? Another 250 years, the year 5500. That will be in the common calendar. That will be 1740. Okay? What do we have at 1740? This is 6 a.m., sunrise. And in 1740, we have the Industrial Revolution. 36 years later, we have the American Revolution, and few years later, we have the French Revolution. What are about all of these revolutions about? If you notice, it's about the spread of knowledge. The print is already there in 1490, but who can buy a book? Only the rich ones. They're too expensive. In 1740, when you have industrial revolution, you have few things. One, people get jobs and they start to work, they get salaries, people make more money, they have more, and there's a mass production, which means it's affordable to buy books. The school in the modern world is starting at that time, which means little kids, they need to be at school when the parents are in the factory. Meanwhile, they read how to read and write. So the Industrial Revolution is the beginning of the explosion of knowledge. However, if you live in a monarchy, in absolute monarchy and dictatorship, you have no chance to get to the wisdom because you're not allowed to. So you need to change the regime. And democracies or free countries, a system is starting to happen around that time. It's starting, it's a process. Okay, so now we are at the 6th millennium, we are in sunrise, and as it says in the Zohar, and in the 6th century of the 6th millennium, the gates of wisdom above and fountains of wisdom below will be opened, which means the age of information is starting. And the moment you have the Industrial Revolution, you have this beginning of this huge flood of information that humanity is starting to generate. Okay, this is the Zohar Parashat Vayera. The next stage is, before we go to noon, we go to another thing. It is said in the Zohar and explained in the teachings of Rabbi Isaac Luria that 5 hours after sunrise of Friday morning, Shabbat, the Sefirot of Shabbat start to climb up. Whoever studied about the tree of life in class number 9 will learn that our job, our work, is to overcome negativity, to overcome reaction, to overcome selfishness, overcome the dark side. And how do we do it? We transform the negativity into positivity. We get from every situation the positive aspect. And when we do that, when we think like this, when we feel like this, we create a change of frequency that allows us to climb up to Malchut. We are in Malchut, to climb up to Zeir Anpin. When we do that, Zeir Anpin and Malchut are climbing up and connect to the upper 3. And when we connect to the upper 3, the light flows freely into the vessel, however, through the filters of Zeir Anpin. And that means we get nourished by the light, but we don't get burned. Like it is when we want to connect straight to the endless light without the upper 3, without any demand to change ourselves. Okay, so what happens on Shabbat? On Shabbat, we can receive the light for free. We do not need to overcome any negativity. We do not need to overcome any challenges. In Shabbat, it is built in. So we can feel where we came from and understand where we're going at. That's what Shabbat is about. Because in Shabbat, the worlds are united. We don't have to work for it. Of course, you prepare for Shabbat, but in Shabbat itself, you are silent. You allow that to flow into you. When does Shabbat starts to move? Malchut starts to move up. It's not one jump. It is a slow ascension and the ascension starts 5 hours after sunrise. So the Sefirot of Shabbat are starting to rise 5 hours after sunrise. When is 5 hours after sunrise? It's very simple to calculate. If one day is 1,000 years, so 1 hour is 1,000 divided by 24. So in the sixth millennium of the sixth century of the sixth millennium, Shabbat starts to move in 5 hours, to move in 5 hours after sunrise. So how much is an hour? If we divide 1,000 by 24, an hour is 41 years and 8 months. Okay? So how much is 5 hours? You just take 5 times 41.66 and you get 208. So you add 5 hours to the year 5500, 4090, and you get the year 5708. That's when Shabbat is starting to ascend. That's when the whole world is starting to ascend towards Shabbat. What year was it? That was 1948 CE. That's when Israel was born, which means people think it was people's choice. No, it was the time Shabbat is starting to move in and the state of Israel had to be born. Okay. Then the next stage, remember we have to come to noon. Noon time is 1990, 5750. However, here the resolution is becoming more precise because the Hebrew year starts a few months earlier, if you notice. The Hebrew New Year starts around September, October, while the civil New Year is starting on January 1st. So the Hebrew New Year is really starting, 5750 is really starting September 89. What happened September 89? The fall of the Iron Curtain. The Iron Curtain symbolized more than anything else the old ages, which means you can force people to live in a lie, in the darkness. You can force people to be secluded from information. The fall of the Iron Curtain in September, October 1990, 89, I'm sorry, that was the beginning of a new era. That was noontime. Another thing, the fall of the Iron Curtain released around 3 million Jews who lived behind the Iron Curtain. From that moment on, there are almost no Jews living under captivity, something that was really common since the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in the year 70. So, what do we have around that time? We have the fall of the USSR, the Iron Curtain. We have the invention of the internet. It was invented earlier, but it started to come out as everybody's domain, and cellular revolution. All of them meant one thing. Humanity is right now accumulating unbelievable amounts of wisdom. That's one aspect. And this wisdom is available, almost all of it, to any person unconditionally, which means everybody can somehow get into stored information on different servers around the planet. You can get it just from your smartphone in the just nothing. Okay, so freedom, as we said, is a result of wisdom. The wisdom is right now spreading like never before. Okay, so what's next? We are right now already in 5784. which means 34 years passed already. It's almost an hour. It's not an hour. Now remember, an hour is 41 years and 8 months. It's not an hour yet, but it's still, we look around and the world is on wheels, spinning. So where are we heading to? So there are many, many explanations, but I'll bring one of them. Zohar Va'era, Parashat Va'era, verse 200. And he brings over there a story of two great sages, Kabbalists, students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that one of them is very sad, and now his friend is asking, why are you so sad? And he says, you know, I'm connecting right now, I'm contemplating on a few verses in the Torah speaking about the birth of Ishmael. And I know, and you know, that the world is going to suffer a lot from the Ishmaelites, the Arab nation, or Islam later on. And I'm crying right now because I see all the pain that those are going to inflict on humanity. And the problem is that after Ishmael was born and Abraham did not have a child from Sarah, and when Abraham was 86, he was praying to God, please give all the blessings to Ishmael, my son. But he was the son of Hagar, the daughter of the king of Egypt. Although the Holy Blessed be He, the Creator, was telling Abraham that he's going to have a son from Sarah, that he is going to be the one who continues the lineage, Abraham still really connected to Ishmael as a son. And Abraham was praying and praying, give the blessings to Ishmael. I don't know if I'm going to have another son. Until God answered to him, Ul Ishmael Shmaticha. Answered to him, I heard you and I listened to you about Ishmael. He will be also a great person. And then Ishmael was circumcised. אחר כך נימול ונכנס בברית הקדוש, and he came into the Holy Covenant. מטרם שיצא יצחק לעולם, that was a year before Isaac was born. What does that mean? So he continues, verse 201. ובואו, come and see. 400 שנה עמד הממונה של בני ישמעאל וביקש לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא. Every nation on earth has a connection, is a manifestation of a branch of the tree of life. Therefore, every nation has a destiny to reveal certain aspects of the tree of life that no one else can reveal. Okay? Every nation, because of that, has a national consciousness that acts like an angel. It is a summary of the souls of that nation. And it's called the supervisor, the overseer, the minister of that nation, that angel. And here it says in the Zohar, the angel of the Ishmaelites was asking the Creator for 400 years. And he said to him, whoever is circumcised, is he able to connect to your holy name? So God said to him, of course. Ishmael is being circumcised. We know Ishmael was circumcised, the son of Abraham. He was circumcised on the day that Abraham was circumcised. He was 13 years old, but he was circumcised when Abraham was circumcised at the age of 99. Okay? And since the beginning of Islam, all Muslims circumcise different ages, but they're not so tight about the time, so it could be earlier, later, whatever, it's not that important. So the angel says to God, הרי ישמעאל שנאמר, but Ishmael is circumcised. למה אין לו חלק בך כמו יצחק? How come he does not have a part in you, within you, like Isaac? So God is saying to Ishmael, זה נאמר קרוי כדיכאוניו. Just being circumcised is not enough. You have to follow a special protocol. The Ishmaelites do not follow that protocol. There are 3 stages for the circumcision. Also, the children of Israel, they do it exactly on the 8th day after birth, most of the times, unless there's something of health hazard that justifies delaying it. Say the baby is not, his weight is not enough. He has jaundice, all kinds of other stuff. So you circumcise when it's safe, health-wise, to circumcise, usually on the 8th day. While the Muslims, they don't have something like this. They do the circumcision anytime. And they do it in a different way. So the angels is asking God, but with all of that, since he was circumcised, he does not get anything good for that? Continues the Zohar, verse 202. Oy לאותו זמן שנולד ישמעאל בעולם ונימול. Woe to that time that Ishmael was born and he was circumcised. Why? מה עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא? What did the Creator do? הרחיק את בני ישמעאל מדבקות העליון. He disconnected the Ishmaelites from the name, his holy name, ונתן להם חלק למטה בארץ הקדושה בשביל המילה שבהם. And he gave them instead a right to rule in the Holy Land because they are circumcised. So, according to the Zohar, the Ishmaelites have a right to rule the Holy Land. Verse 203. How would that manifest? ועתידים בני ישמעאל לשלוט על הארץ הקדושה זמן הרבה בשעה שהיא ריקה מכל. כמו שהמילה שלהם היא ריקה בשלמות. Because the circumcision of the Ishmaelites is kind of empty because they don't do it with a full aspect of it, they will have the land when the land is empty. You have to remember, when the Zohar was written, Israel was one of the most populated provinces in the Roman Empire. Very heavily, densely populated. To say that the country is going to be desolated, and more than that, it says another thing. They will be there for a while, for a given time, till their time will be over. Just go back a little bit and go to verse 201. It says that the angel of Ishmael, every nation has an angel of its own. The angel of Ishmael asked 400 years. Now we know the Ishmaelites arrived, took over the land of Israel when the Arab tribes invaded from Arabia to the Middle East. That was in the 7th century, okay? But when they came to Israel, they were not the majority. They were still the rulers, but the majority were Jewish and Christian. Only after the Crusades, it started to change. And the last Ishmaelite ruler who basically symbolized the caliphate was the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire simply took over the Holy Land, Jerusalem, in the year 1517. They were driven out of Israel by the Allies in the year 1917, exactly 400 years as the Zohar predicted. Okay? And then the Zohar says in verse 203, והם יעכבו את בני ישראל לשוב במקומם. They will delay. So delay is not the right translation. They will prevent the children of Israel from coming back to their homeland. Now, whoever knows that along the Ishmaelite era, especially the Ottoman, not just that the land got empty, desolated, like the prophecies in Deuteronomy and like the prophecy of the Zohar, the land is going to be empty. So when we are talking about 19th century, there are basically hardly a few 100,000 people living in the whole country that is called Israel. Now there are more than 12, there's about 12 million people in this piece of land, few 100,000, okay? And how many Jews? Not too many, few thousands. And they were Jews were trying to come back since the end of the Crusades. The Crusade killed most of the Jews that lived in Israel, like they left only very few. Like there were still a few 100,000 Jews living in Israel when the Crusades happened around the 1099. Okay? They killed and almost all the Jews that were in Israel. And they didn't allow any Jews to come back. After the Crusades, then when the Muslims came back, the Jews were starting to try all the time to come back, and the Ishmaelites were doing everything in their possibility not to let them coming back, with all kinds of systems of discrimination and robbing. It doesn't matter, it's not for us. But so in the 19th century, it's very hard for the Jews to come back. They're still coming back. Middle of the 19th century, Jerusalem is already like almost the middle of the mid 1800s. The Jews are the biggest group living in Jerusalem. But still, most of the country is empty, desolated. And it says that will happen till the merit of the Ishmaelite will be completed. 1917, there are less than 100,000 Jews in Israel. Less than 100,000 Jews. Now, 100 years later, there are over 7 million of them. This is like exactly the story, and the Jews are coming back. That's what the Zohar is saying. And as the Jews are coming back, verse 204, ועתידים בני ישמעאל לעורר מלחמות גדולות בעולם. So the Ishmaelites do not want the Jews to come back. And after they fight against the Jews, they awaken wars, big wars all over the world. והתאספו בני אדום עליהם ויערכו עמהם מלחמה. And the Edomites, which in the language of the Zohar, it means the Christian West, will gang on them to fight back the Ishmaelites. But it says they will gang on them and with them. If you notice, every time there's a war, the West is always trying to get a coalition with some Arabs. So it doesn't look like it's only Christians against Muslims. Exactly as the Zohar is saying, with them and against them. And one war on the sea, one war on the land, and one about Jerusalem. The centrality of Jerusalem in the world conflict between civilizations. The Islamic civilization on one side, the Christian civilization on the other side, and the Jews in the middle. This is just we're in the middle of that war. It's happening. If somebody didn't notice, wake up. וארץ הקדושה לא תימסר לבני אדום, and the Holy Land is not going to be given to the people, the children of Edom. Again, Edom is the West. The West is about, it's very much Esau. It's about wars. It's about conquest. It's about growing. It's about creativity. development and so on, that's Edom. And so we realize that within all the story, just to remind you how it happened, it's when the British and the French took over the Middle East, and the British did not take over and created the British mandate over here just to create a Jewish state. They really wanted to rule over here. If you see the palaces they built here already in the 1920s, they meant to stay. But the plan didn't work. It says they will not be able to get the land. And even later on, there's still an agenda to have Jerusalem as an international area, corpus separatum. The Zohar says that won't happen. The next stage, says the Zohar, ולאחר מכן ישלוט מלך פרס. And after that, the kingdom of Persia will rise. It's called today Iran. וייטול מלכויות גדולות, and it's going to take over big kingdoms. I don't know if you noticed, but right now, Yemen, an Arab nation, is basically under Iranian control. Iraq is mostly Iranian province. Syria, most of Syria is already Iranian province, and including Lebanon. So right now, Beirut, Damascus, Baghdad, Sana'a, great Arab capitals are almost totally under Persian Iranian rules. What's the agenda of the spreading Persian Empire, Neo-Persian Empire? והוא ישלוט על ארץ הקודש תריסר חודשים. The Persian Empire will mean to take over the Holy Land. And they will be able to do it for 12 months. When they do it, they will murder, kill many. They will also kill Mashiach ben David. ולאחר מכן ייפול, and then he will fall. ויקבלו את המלוכה עם ישראל, and the nation of Israel will take the kingdom. Okay, so this, as crazy as it looks like, whoever doesn't see, it's happening in front of our eyes, it's already here. Now, if somebody heard my explanation to Parashat Bereshit of 2023, that was given a day after October 7th, I'm explaining over there that the plan is, as it says over here, that the Persian Empire will take over Israel for 12 months. However, that was the plan of October 7th. For some reason we don't know yet, the world is not aware of it, because the plan was that the Iranian proxy in Gaza will invade Israel from the south. At the same time, the Iranian proxy in the north from Lebanon, the Hezbollah, will invade from the north. The Iranian proxies in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, that is armored to the teeth, thousands and thousands of people, they will invade Jewish settlements and cities from the middle. And there were also 100,000 soldiers, Iranian proxies on the Golan Heights, gathered over there to invade Israel from the Golan. That was planned to happen on October 7th. But a miracle happened that it happened on Shabbat, Simchat Torah, which is the day that all the decrees of people's life for 1 year is decreed on that day and is coming out on that day. They ruled part of Israel for that day. And that meant they already got their 12 months. From that moment on, it's only down the hill for them, for Persia, for Iran. It's going to take us time to see that, maybe 12 months, because the situation won't be solved. All powers around must be solved, either from, Israel was also attacked from Yemen, from the Houthis. So everything will settle itself maybe within 12 months. But that, it says, will kill Mashiach ben Yosef. What is Mashiach ben Yosef? The Zohar speaks a lot about the two messiahs, which means the messianic age will have two stages. The first stage will be totally materialistic. Joseph, he manifested himself, his reign, through materials. He was very successful making money for his master Potiphar. And when he was taken out from jail by Pharaoh, he made a lot of money for Pharaoh. He fed a lot of people. There was no spiritual aspect to that, just the power and the might that he had to his family, but there was no, he didn't get them to become really monotheistic and believe in God. He just fed everybody and created the base to the, basically to the slavery in Egypt for a few centuries. So that's why it says that it's called Mashiach, the son of Joseph. And that means that we will see a messianic movement, but it will be very much materialistic. Jews will come back to Israel from all over the world, and they will build a flourishing economy. They will flourish the desert. They will do stuff that the whole world will look at and say, whoa, it's amazing. You just took a barren land that was not populated, and you just created a flourishing country that is one of the leading countries in the world in many aspects of science and startup and whatever, okay? That stage is called Mashiach ben Yosef. But the Iranian invasion was supposed to kill Mashiach ben Yosef. And that means to change from Mashiach ben Yosef era to Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben David means that it is the spiritual power, the spiritual ideology that will take over and replace the materialistic one. For Israel, for the rest of the world. The war is right now about one thing. It's about the right of human beings to be happy, to have a right for happiness, for their property, for the freedom, against all that part of humanity that think that humans don't deserve the right for happiness, because if you're given too many rights, it will be chaotic. You need to control them. People are not smart enough to have democracy. They are not smart enough to have freedom. They have to be guided and run like cattle. This is two ideologies that are fighting right now. And as the months are going to pass by and the years are going to unveil themselves in the coming era, we're going to see that happening. It's not easy, but we are right now in Armageddon. We are just in the middle of the war. So where are we heading to? So Rabbi Ashlag explained to us a few points. First, we are in an age where humanity is learning that we are all one. We are all interdependent. We are in a global village. Rabbi Ashlag is writing that almost a century ago. Every human being has a part in the system of humanity. Every human being is unique and has a unique contribution to humanity, and you can't just give them up. You just have to transform them from evil to good. There will be peace only when every person lives according to these conditions. It's all about love others as you love yourself. All this depends on spreading the wisdom of Kabbalah, because if people are going to try to accept that just on a physical aspect, they tried already to do it with communism. And they still trying to preach these Marxist ideas. It doesn't work. It has to be a spiritual ideology of understanding the human soul and the human soul's right for fulfillment. And it's only going to happen if you bring the divine into the equations. So it was a long class, more to learn, and we will continue next week. We're going to make a summary of all of it. Thank you so much.